Hey, what is up guys, this is Wolf/Turd and today we're gonna be taking a look at the meme faction Bronze Age Egypt. That really weird faction, I don't know why they're there, but they are, and we're gonna talk about them in a couple of seconds. Stay tuned and let's go. Alright guys, here we are taking a look at the Egyptian roster. To make it a little bit quicker for you guys, I'm just gonna go over the strengths and the weaknesses of this army, and then we're gonna be taking a look at the units individually, and then finally we're gonna be deciding on which tier we're gonna put Egypt, right? So here's the thing. What are the strengths of Egypt? They have cheaper units than normal. You guys can check the prices. They are not too expensive. They have cheap and non-run-amokable. I just made up that word. Hey, I'm so smart. No, and non-run-amokable chariots. I'm gonna go with it. They have a very good archer unit in the Ferris Bowmen. It's not the best archer unit that you can recruit in the game. But it's probably the second best archer unit in the game, maybe the third archer unit in the game, depending on how you want to rank them, if you want to take price into consideration or not. And they do have a bonus in deserts, which will make them better at fighting in the deserts. So those are things worth considering as their strength. I don't think that the bonus in the deserts will say much, because most of the fights you're not going to be fighting them in the deserts, especially if you're going online. However, it's still there. And this is relevant for the campaign gameplay as well. Anyway, what are their weaknesses? Well, mostly their units are kind of weak. And, infantry-wise, they're not good. Cavalry-wise, they're also not good. They have bad cav. They have bad infantry. They have good archers, they have chariots to power them up, and they have some Camel Archers, which is a really good thing. So now that I think this is all. This is their strengths, and these are their weaknesses. Strength, chariots, and archers, weakness, infantry, and cavalry. Alright, so let's go unit by unit, and let's talk about them. Now, I'm gonna be saying the stats and stuff, so we're gonna have some nice footage of a battle while we go over the units. Whenever I need to compare units with other factions, I will just show you guys this. Okay, let's go. So, we start with the Peasants. Well, everybody has Peasants, so let's move on. Then we have the Nubian Spearmen. They have 5 attack, 8 defense, 2 charge. They have combat bonus in the deserts, like every single other Egyptian unit, so I'm not going to mention it anymore. They have poor morale, and of course they can form phalanx, and they are good against cav. These guys are bad. If they get surrounded, they will just crumble. If they fight against any better unit of phalanx, they will die pretty quickly. They are bad. They are just bad all around. Then we have the Nile Spearmen. And Nile Spearmen, well, they're somewhat cheap. They don't have terrible stats, but they're also not good at all. Most other units will be able to defeat them, especially if these units can do phalanx. Of course, phalanxes are always strong head-to-head, but if they get outflanked by anything, they will die. For example, we have the Desert Axemen, which they are not a particularly good melee infantry, but they would be able to kill the Nile Spearmen if they charged on the sides or on the back. And that takes us, of course, to the Desert Axemen. They have 10 attack, 10 defense, 4 charge. Did I say the stats for the Nile Spearmen? At 7 attack, 13 defense, charge 3 on the Nile Spearmen, by the way. Anyway, Desert Axemen, 10 attack, 10 defense, 4 charge. These guys, as an Axeman, at 370 denarii, are not too bad. For example, I think that the closest axe infantry we have is the Germanians Axemen here. They have 1195, attack, defense, charge. And they also have good morale. They have combat bonuses in other places, and they can hide in the woods pretty well. I guess that the Night Raiders would also be a matchup, but the Night Raiders are 14, 10, 6. So, how much does the Swabi or the Germanian Axemen cost? 450. These guys cost 370. So obviously you would prefer to take these Desert Axemen, even though they have one less attack and one more defense than the others. So they're not a terrible unit, but for their tier, I don't know. I don't think they are just that good. They can get beaten by most other melee infantry in the game. They do have access though. Anyway, then we go for the Pharaoh's Guards. The Pharaoh's Guards are the elite melee unit for the Egyptians. Are they any good? You know, stat-wise, they have 12 attack, 16 defense, 4 charge. They are not too bad. They can form phalanx. They have a bonus against cav, of course. They are well armored and they have good stamina and good morale, of course. Are they great? They are not great. They're a good unit. They are not a great unit. Every single other elite unit in the game, I think every one of them can kill the Pharaoh's Guards. But the Ferrous Guards are kind of cheap. They are only 600 denarii. So that kind of makes them worth it. I just don't think they are particularly good units. You know, especially if you go and take a look at Carthage, for example, the Poene infantry is 918. I would rather have Poene infantry than have the Pharaoh's Guards. And the Poene infantry are not the elite units of the Carthaginians. They are previous to that. So there's that, guys. And the Poene infantry costs 540. These guys cost 600, so I'd really rather just take the other guys. Anyway, so in terms of infantry, we just finished the infantry. Infantry for the Egyptians is quite poor. Alright, the Pharaoh's Guards are decent, they are cheap, so it kind of makes them good. But they are not great unit for sure. So in terms of infantry, Egyptians are weak. Then we get to the missile line. So we have slingers, attack 3, defense 4, charge 1, missile 4. It's just normal slingers. They have regular skirmishers as well and regular bowmen as well. These guys are the same as every other faction here. That have access to slingers, skirmishers, and bowmen. So there's nothing much to say about it. You know, they have the 3 guys. They have slingers, skirmishers, and bowmen. So, you know, that's good. It's good to have all the options out there in the table, on the table. But this is, I think, not very impressive. Now let's go to the Ferris Bowmen. The Ferris Bowmen have 9 attack, 12 defense, 3 of charge, and missile 10. The Pharaoh's Bowmen are one of the best missile units in the game, and I'm gonna show you 2 other missile units in the game, of course. The Cretan Archers over on the Greeks. They have 6 attack, 4 defense, 3 charge, but 11 missile. Now, the Pharaoh's Bowmen are better at melee, much better at melee than the Cretans, and they have good armor, by the way. So the Cretans don't. The Cretans are actually vulnerable to missiles, and they only have 1 less missile attack. So Cretans with missile 11, they are very, very good. They only cost 550, which is a really great price for them. And then there's another unit of missiles. This is the best missile unit in the game. If you don't take into account the price, it's the Forester Warband. It's 11 attack, 7 defense, 4 charge, missile 11 as well. So these guys can also do pretty well in melee. But who would I rather have? A 960 denarii unit that does well in melee and has 1 more missile attack than the Ferris Bowmen, or a unit that does well in melee and a lot more defense actually, that has 1 less missile attack, that costs only 680. I would rather take the Ferris Bowmen any day other than the Foresters, just because they cost a lot less and they are equally as good in my opinion. So as far as missiles go, it's pretty average, but then they have the Pharaoh's Bowmen, which makes it good. It's one of the best missile units in the game. So really, this unit, if you're playing Egypt, you need to take a couple of them, at least a couple of them, okay? Because these guys are crazy good. After they discharge all of their arrows, they can just outflank the enemies. All right, then we go to the cavalry line. The cavalry line is the Desert Cav, Nubian Cav, Nile Cav. Now, Desert Cav, 6 attack, 11 defense, 5 charge. They're not good, okay? They don't have good attack either. I mean, they don't have good morale either. They're effective against armor because of their axes. But that's pretty much it. So if you want an anti-armored cav unit, you can probably take them. But then again, if you're fighting against the Macedonians, for example, who have 10-17, it will not make a lot of difference, right? It just won't. because the Macedonians have crazy high defense and they have more attack, so they will lose to the Macedonian Cav, for example, who is not a great unit of Cav. It's a good unit of Cav, and these guys are just the entry level Cav for the Egyptians, so it makes sense. They're not too expensive. They are better than the Greek Cavs, so yeah, there it is. There it is, Desert Cav. Anyway, we'll go to the Nubian Cav. Nubian Cavalry are lightly equipped raiders who are perfect for flanking attacks on an enemy line. Attack 8, defense 10, charge 6. Yeah, these guys have good morale as well. They are fast moving, which is always great. They are not particularly good units, alright. They are okay cavalry, I guess. They are okay. And then we have the Nile Cav, which is a better version of the Nubian Cav with 8 attack, 13 defense, and 6 charge. Alright, they are not great. They are not as good as the Macedonian Cav. They're not as good as the Companion Cav, and they're not as good as the Cataphracts. And again, Egypt is in the east. They will surely meet these eastern factions with Cataphracts. So they will get wrecked. Their cav will get wrecked. And even if you go online multiplayer, if you're fighting any faction with better cav, well, that's gonna be a tough one. And most factions have better cav than him. Even the Germanians, even the Arverni have better cav than them. So especially in the late game. And if you're gonna go online, yeah, you'll have access to them. They will have access to them. Anyway, now let's move on to the chariots. I'm not gonna take a look at the Egyptian general, okay? I'm not going to take a look at them, because you have a cav general and you have a chariot general. And most of the times you're going to be using the chariot, of course. But anyway, Egyptian chariots. Egyptian chariots are decent units. Now, again, they don't run amok. Okay, they don't run amok. They are fast moving. They frighten nearby enemy units. So that's great. They have 12 attack, 1 defense, 6 charge. They have 3 hit points. Now, mind you, the Scythed chariots have more attack and more hit points. However, they can run amok. These guys cannot. Alright, so this will be very, very important to take into account. And this is what makes these chariots powerful, is that they will not run amok. So you don't need to worry too much about Harrow Fire. Of course, they are weak to it, so, you know, after a few hits they will start dying. But there's that. And then you have, of course, the Egyptian Chariot Archers, which have 9 attack, 1 defense, and 5 charged. And they have a 9 missile attack as well. This 9 missile attack is actually pretty good. And their maneuverability actually, you know, justifies it. Now, so if you can put some of these guys behind the enemy line, that's really good. But you can probably only do this against factions that have weak cavalry. Maybe like Carthage's cavalry is not that great, for example. You know, maybe against the Greek city-states they have really weak cavalry. That might be it. I think Carthage weak cavalry. Let me just check that. No, Carthage actually has the Sacred Band. You know, the Sacred Band cavalry, which is a decent cavalry unit, 11-18. All right. So, no, never mind. Against the Greek city-states, I think that the Egyptians would do fine, because their cavalry can beat the citizen cavalry that the Greeks have. But yeah, so the only unit that I'm missing is the Camel Archers. Camel Archers are exactly the same as the Horse Archers, but they can make enemy horses panic. Is that it? Yes. They can make enemy horses panic. They have good stamina, and but they are vulnerable to missiles as well. So there's that, and it's just the basic cavalry archer unit, okay? Except they are on camels. Now, one thing that I thought it was really funny is when it comes to the onagers. You know, the Egyptians have a normal unit of onagers, which I think it's normal, but then this is Bronze Age Egypt, mind you, and then they have access to the heavy onagers, while the Seleucids do not, and I think that is pretty funny. Now, so we have come to an end. I've already seen all of the units, so what my conclusions is the ones that you've already that I said in the beginning. So their infantry is quite weak. I don't think it holds up to most other factions, you know, and their cavalry is also pretty weak. I think they hold up against, for example, the Greeks, but I don't think there's a lot of other factions that are gonna have trouble against the Egyptian cavalry. Now, their strength, of course, is the chariots, and if they are employed correctly, then they might actually be able to get Egypt a victory. However, it's gonna be tough since if the enemy has cavalry superiority, they can just swarm your chariots, and as soon as your chariots are stopped, they will start falling, and they also have to take care about missile units firing onto them. So that's it. Oh, however, their archer unit is also pretty strong, and that's also a plus. So, what tier should they have? And I gotta say, this one pains me, because Egypt is a faction that I'm always really annoyed to have to fight against because of all of the chariots. And you guys know that Egypt, most of the times, they do really well on the campaign. But I'm gonna have to let you know, the campaign, like the auto resolve favors chariots a crazy amount, and that is why Egypt usually does good in the campaign. So that isn't so that is to be expected, because they have chariots and they usually use a lot of them. But yeah, this one pains me because it's either a C tier or a D tier, actually. You know, and I'm torn between them. You know, I'm torn between them. And I think I'm gonna give it a C, and I'm gonna reason why. So the Pharaoh's Guards, despite not being a very good unit, a very good elite unit, they are cheap, so you can actually get more of them than the other factions could. Their archers are pretty good, so if you get Ferris Bowmen and Pharaoh's Guards, you can actually probably do a lot of damage to your enemy, depending on the enemy, especially if you're fighting against barbarian factions. Those Ferris Bowmen will be super good. And then their cav is really weak, so it cannot really go further than a C tier. Like, the cavalry is weak, the infantry is weak. If you had strong infantry but weak cav, well, they could probably go into a B tier. If you had strong cavalry and weak infantry, they could actually go to a B tier easily. You know, but no. They are bad all around, except they have one really good unit of archer, and they have the chariots to help them out. So that is why I'm putting them on the C tier. It's like they only have archer and chariots to help them, and then most other factions are going to have an advantage when it comes to cavalry and infantry. And if you don't have either cavalry or infantry, your armies are going to be very hard to control. You know, because you're going to have to rely on other types of units or unconventional warfare. And that's what we're going to see also on other factions such as Parthia, where they don't have, you know, their infantry is absolute shit. You know, it's much worse than Egypt's. Like, Egypt's infantry, it's probably a C tier. Egypt's cavalry is a C tier as well. So that is why I'm not really going to go D. But for example, on Parthia has a D tier infantry for sure. So that's the thing. C tier for these guys, boys. If you disagree with my rating of Egypt, please let me know in the comments below. Don't be afraid to type angrily or something like that. You know, if you dislike the video, do leave a dislike. If you like the video, well, even better, just leave a like and share this. If you guys think this is good information, share this to your Total War friends and whatnot. I think maybe some people will watch these videos, take a look at the units, and think, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna start using this unit a little bit more. I'm gonna start using that unit a little bit more. For example, the Desert Cavalry, yeah, they have some value, especially if you're charging against, you know, armored units. They do have some value. The same thing as the Desert Axemen, you know, they might be useful flanking, for example, because despite there not being a very good unit, they are fast moving, right? Well, they're actually not fast moving. Well, no, hip dreams. But there are good units for flanking. They have the axes, so they also have a little bit more armor piercing than, for example, any units with swords. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much.